Welcome to episode 15. Nope. Welcome to episode 16 of Benny on the Beat. Hi.
Hello there.
If you happen to be new to the channel or new to these videos, my name is Ben. I am a police officer. We do a few different kinds of videos on this channel. A lot of them are family vlogs showing you the insights of what a police officer is like when we're not at work. But these patrol vlogs are about my time at work. These are stories from my job to give you guys some insights into what it's like to be a cop. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. So let's give you guys a snapshot of what we're going to be talking about this week. As far as on the job stuff, we're going to talk about a transient at the park, some kids playing at the park, saw some things that they shouldn't ever have to see. We're going to talk about a couple of calls where I actually did nothing. I chose to not even respond, which brings up an interesting question as to whether or not police even have the choice. If we're sent on something by dispatch or you call in to the police about something, do we have to go? Do we have to do anything? We had a suspicious circumstance call. It actually came in as a burglary in progress, or I don't even remember what they classified it as. Ridiculous set of circumstances, and I'll have to explain the story to you and get some feedback from you guys, but very, very interesting call. We had a girl on a call run from a police officer in another agency because she didn't even realize he was a cop. He was a detective trying to be an actual cop. We had a road rage incident involving a gun that turned into a high hazard stop, or what some people call a felony stop. While investigating a vehicle burglary, I got accused of writing someone a parking ticket, and they wanted to talk to me about it when I had nothing to do with it. I don't write parking tickets. And oh wow, my wife found an old picture of me when I was like 15 years old. Singing karaoke on a stage on a, oh my gosh, you know what, we'll cap this video off with maybe sharing that picture with you guys. Maybe, we'll see. All right, so we got some fun things to talk about, and as always, we are going to look at a few of your comments, questions, and get into those before we get into those calls. So all of the timestamps for those individual stories will be in the pinned comment down below, so if you want to skip around or just move past the comments and questions section that we do first, you can do that. Speaking of the comments and questions from you guys last week, we had some good ones. Right before we jump into those though, I had one comment from Lord Dragon, if I remember the name right. Yep, Lord Dragon. He pointed out that the question about when I had my last taser incident didn't count when I told the story about what happened at Walmart. If you guys didn't see last week's video, I'll throw a link up here, one of these, so that you can go check that out. But he was right. Technically, it wasn't my taser deployment. It was just a call that I was on. So I promised him when I responded to his comment that I would tell the story of when I last had my taser deployment. As near as I can remember, unless I'm forgetting one or two, it was about 5 or 6 years ago. It was a while ago, but we had a suspect. We found out he was actually a former or current Marine, one of the two. He'd had some military training. He decided to get high. He got ripped out of his mind and went and drove through a neighborhood, got into a car accident, actually hurting a father and a small child. He actually ran from the scene of the accident and hid in some bushes in the neighborhood. We were able to find him and arrest him. So we were on our way up to jail. I had him in the back of my Crown Vic. Not an Impala, Crown Vic at this time. Oh, I missed that car. We haven't even talked about the Impala status this week. We're gonna get to it. But I'm driving him to the jail, and I notice he is doing something in the back as we're driving. He was actually getting his hands out in front of him, underneath his legs, and moving them up to the front, which most people can't do. You gotta be pretty flexible for that. But we get to a traffic light, and he has his hands in front of him now, and he takes his hands with the handcuffs, and he hits the window. And he must have just had the metal of the handcuffs just right, got lucky, and was able to shatter the window with that one hit. And he starts to reach outside with his handcuffed hands to unlock the door from the outside. And at this point, I'm getting out of the car to go around and stop him. As I get out of the car, I realize it's still in drive, so it starts rolling forward. So I get back in the car, put it in park. At this point, he is already outside the car and running away. Get my car in park. I take off after him. I pull out my taser, trying to get a beat on him, and I'm yelling with, I'm sure, very professional language, no swearing involved, that he needs to stop immediately or he's gonna get tased. He chooses not to stop, so I line up on him as I'm running, which is more difficult than you might think, and I shoot the taser, and it hits him with one of the probes. If you guys understand tasers, you know there's two probes that get shot out. One of the probes makes a connection, but the other doesn't, so there's no actual, taser connection. It doesn't stop him. So I'm holding on to the taser still, and I'm running after him in traffic. This is a busy road. This is like a 5 or 6 lane road, and I still remember to this day, it was like Moses and the Red Sea. All these cars were just parting around us as this guy is running down the road. After a few seconds, it didn't seem like very long, I don't know, for whatever reason, he gave up or just decided it wasn't going to work running with handcuffs in front of him, and he just stopped. Well, I was catching up to him pretty fast, and I didn't stop. Here comes the... He hit the ground, he fell on his wrist, he complained and whined that he broke his wrist or something like that. So not only did he go to jail for everything else that we already had, but we got him for a third-degree felony damage to a jail facility, which a police car is. Made things a lot worse for him than it needed to be, but I'll tell you, it felt good to get him in custody again. Okay, a few comments and questions from you guys. Mr. Doughboy, I have a theory. Your mechanic is a subscriber. He keeps messing up little things on the Impala. When you take it to get repaired, he fixes the last thing and rigs something else to break later. Oh, it's been solved. We figured it out. Mr. Doughboy. Why did I not see this before? That is the most plausible explanation, because how does it just keep breaking on account of me? A curse? We call it the Impala curse, but is that really what it is? Speaking of which, let's just talk about the status of the Impala today. The current status of the Impala is, I actually don't know. I don't know how to quantify it. The check engine light has been on for weeks, and yesterday, while sitting in a parking lot working on a report, it started making a grinding noise, like metal on metal grinding. I had to like look up and look around, like what's going on? My car gonna blow up on me? What's happening? It did it for a few seconds, it sputtered, it idled down, and it died. Dead. Tried to restart it, did the metal on metal grinding, guttural, just terrible noise for a few seconds, died again. I let it sit for a little bit, and then I had to try to start it 3 or 4 times. Eventually, I got it to start, and it didn't have any other problems the rest of the night. Check engine light's still on, but I was able to drive it. I was able to get it home. Tell me that's not a ticking time bomb. Like, that's not gonna fix itself. I have no idea what it was. So I can't say that the Impala is up, and it's not really down. So it's just, it's in ticking time bomb status. I'll let you know. More to come on that. Skawidania? Skawidania. Why do I even try? Have you ever been in a situation where you burst into laughing when you were supposed to be serious while on duty? Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, there has. And I remember when I saw this question, I thought there was, but I had to think about what it was. And I still cannot remember specifically because my memory is so bad. I've done this long enough that I can remember a time before body cams and before everybody took everything so seriously when we could have a little bit of fun and we could mess with people a little bit. Just maybe kind of like a Super Trooper situation.
Sorry about that.
All right, meow.
I'm sorry, are you saying meow?
Am I saying meow?
I could have sworn you said meow.
Do I look like a cat to you, boy? Am I jumping around all nimbly-bimbly from tree to tree?
No.
Am I drinking milk from a saucer?
No.
Well, do you see me eating mice? Now you stop laughing right now.
I mean, stupid things that we would immediately like tell people we're just joking. It was stuff like on a traffic stop telling people that their blinker fluid was out or the color of their car was illegal for that time of month. It was one of those type things, just trying to like keep a straight face and tell. And I don't remember what this officer said. I really wish I could tell you guys and remember. Maybe it's better that I don't, but I just remember I just lost it. I ruined the moment because they knew that we were messing with them. The hard part about remembering that kind of stuff is I really don't do anything like that anymore. It just seems like it used to be a little more lighthearted and we could, you know, mess around and have a little more fun with folks in the right situations. And don't really do that anymore, especially with like body cameras and stuff. We're afraid that if we joke with somebody, we're gonna get a complaint and we're gonna get in trouble for doing that. So strictly business, all very serious, and we don't do any shenanigans.
Hope you're settling in okay and enjoying a reduced amount of legroom compared to your normal modes of travel. Should you choose to open your mouth further, just be aware that it could come back to bite you.
Speaking of shenanigans, Timothy, you are a dork. I knew I would be in good company on your channel. Who says I'm a dork? Like, what evidence is there of that? Oh, come on. It's the only shirt that I had to wear today. It means nothing. Roy Spalding, when you have just a little bit of hair, it is easy to keep it good look. Whoa. Whoa. Roy, what do you mean a little? It's because of the way I cut it, Roy. This is the style that I choose. It's not thinning, is it? You guys suck. Whatever. Oh, as I live and breathe, recovering Californian, a die-hard veteran of the channel. Biohazard, like blood, question. Is flinging blood purposefully enough to consider deadly force? I ask because, as you know, you can be exposed to some life-threatening, changing diseases if even a single drop gets into your mouth, a cut, eyes, etc. I'm presuming no, but like bullets, I'd want to seek cover first. Yeah, man, it's like you said. You'd want to take cover first. You want to get away from that. It's not going to be a deadly force situation, though, because you got to remember, we're not going to know. If that's happening and people are flinging bodily fluids or something, it happens sometimes. We don't know if they're, you know, HIV positive or something like that, that really could be considered like a life or death thing. We don't know that at the time, so it doesn't give us justification to use deadly force when someone's doing that. I wouldn't imagine that would go over very well. It makes you wonder if we did know that, if it would. I guess it depends on the circumstances. It's kind of an interesting question, but in general, no, there's going to be other ways to handle that. Like less lethal options are probably going to be more applicable. Good question though. Professor Kelly, as a police officer, are you allowed to carry your personal firearms on the job, or can you only carry your service weapon provided by the department? Love the vids. Hi from Wales. Wales. Awesome. Thank you, man. It depends on the department. Departments are each going to have their own policies. I can tell you that with the ones that I've worked with, you have to carry department issued weapons. So it all comes down to policies. Every department's going to have a different one that dictates what you can or can't carry. So it just depends. Simone Laroche? Did I say that right? Did you ever had an experience of a police chase? If so, how did it go? By the way, I love your videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Simone. We've talked about this on the channel before, but the short answer is no. I have not actually personally been involved in a full-blown police chase. Why? Everybody knows you don't run from FuzzFam. I've done a lot of traffic stops in my career, and I've never had one of them run. I've had a few that have come close. They've thought about it, and they've gone around the block, and you could tell they were thinking about it, but they stopped and they didn't run. Hope I never have to. Adam MC, Dear Officer Fuzzy, what is the current condition of your family vehicle? Is it broken down, or do you only break police cars? Adam, I take issue with that, because I do not break police cars, as I have made abundantly clear in these videos. It is not my fault. It is the car that I drive. Or as we've learned today, it actually could be the mechanic working on it. That's a theory. No, my car is fine. My family car is fine. Do you only break police cars? Colin Fisher, I love this series. Well, thank you, Colin. How much time do you spend per shift doing patrols and traffic stops, and how much do you spend responding to and handling calls? Great question, Colin, and we've brought that up before too. I've talked about how I actually don't do very many, if ever, really, traffic stops. I don't, and that's just particular to the department that I'm working for. I work in a little bit busier area of a city, and we are just usually going call to call to call. So the bulk of my shift is spent handling calls, writing the report after completing the call, clearing off of that, and taking the next one that is ready to go. We usually have a stack of calls that are pending, just meaning that there's always something to go do as soon as you're done with one assignment. Check your 6. When you get pulled over at night, is it a good idea to turn on your dome light for the officer, or would that be too much of a distraction to passing traffic? It's something that I think most of us would actually appreciate. It's not necessary. Certainly, we put a lot of lights on your car at night. Spotlights, takedown lights on the light bar to try to illuminate the car as much as possible. But where most cars have tint and stuff on their windows, it certainly would help us feel a little more comfortable if we can see what's going on inside there. So if people roll down their windows, especially those back windows with tint, and turn on a dome light and we can see everything going on inside the car, I don't think any cop out there would have a problem with that. I think it's something most of us would appreciate. All right, good stuff. Thanks, guys, for the questions. Obviously, we can't get to all of them each week, but please continue to leave your comments and questions down below, and I'll take a look at them and try to get to as many as we can on these videos. Before we get into the recap of the calls, we do have a sponsor for today's video. We very, very much appreciate their support in making it possible for us to do these. And once again, it is the almighty Galls.com. If you haven't heard of Galls.com, Galls is the Amazon of public safety or first responder equipment. I don't think they could legally say that because Amazon is its own company, but I like to say that and compare it to them because it's such an easy way to get the equipment needed for this job. So if you are in law enforcement, military, even postal work, firefighter, first responder, ambulance, any of that type of stuff, go to Galls.com. It's easily broken down into different sections by profession. You can find whatever you need to keep doing your job or improve your job. And especially if you're getting into this, getting prepared to go to the academy, just started, any of the stuff that you need, you got one place where you can find it all. Very, very cool company. Highly recommend them. And we have a code you can use if you check out and buy anything there to get an additional 15% off. Just use the code FuzzFam. All right, let's get into the recap of the week and talk about the calls I had. I obviously forgot to turn the neon sign on earlier. Wasn't on the whole time, but we got it now.
No one cares.
So that first call we were going to talk about that I had was a report of a transient. You guys know by now, if you've been here for a while, we have lots of issues and calls involving transients. But this one it's just foul. It's just wrong. This was a report of a transient that was at the park. The call came from a family with a bunch of little kids that were there, and they look over and there's a transient using the bathroom. Oh, are you I mean, come on. I don't know. Just super not cool. So we ran over there, and unfortunately, we couldn't find the guy. He had taken care of his business and walked off down the road, I guess, and went down an alleyway. I don't know. We couldn't find him. And I was really trying to find him on this one. I really wanted to have a chat with him to make sure that didn't happen again. So poor kids. Then we were going to talk about a couple of these calls that I was dispatched to that I didn't go on. So this happens sometimes. And the short answer to the question I posed at the beginning of the video is no. You don't have to go to a call and take police action and contact people simply because it comes across the police radio. I should qualify this with stating it obviously depends on where you work and the policies of your department. Some places don't allow you to exercise any common sense and will tell you you have to respond and have to talk to everybody that you are dispatched to. Hopefully you don't work in a place like that or live in a place like that. I mean, dispatchers are not police officers, and sometimes they're not going to screen out everything that we shouldn't go on. A guy called and said that there was a transient walking down the sidewalk who happened to look over in his direction and then back where he was going and continuing on his way.
A nerve!
The problem the guy had was he had a very nice expensive bike that he had on his porch. He thought the transient was eyeballing his bike and intended to steal it at some point in the future because of the way that he was hungrily looking at the bike or enviously looking at the bike. Are you serious? He was looking at your bike. I mean, what, you want us to go talk to him and confront him about the future crime that you believe he was going to commit because of the way he was looking at your bike? I mean, come on. Come on! Like, absolutely not. I'm not going to even stop and talk to someone about that. I'm not even going to do a level 1 consensual, nice stop and chat with a person. They don't deserve to be stopped and talked to by the police for walking down the road doing absolutely nothing wrong. The other one we had was a report of a guy standing on a street corner, minding his own business, doing absolutely nothing wrong, that had a pocket knife or a large knife attached to his belt. Okay? Like what? Are you worried that he could potentially use that knife to cause harm to somebody? Nothing else going on. No fight, no other crime, no reports of anything suspicious, just a guy wearing a pocket knife. Oh. Tell you what, guys, you do this job, you deal with some frustrations, and some of the frustrations we experience are the things that people will actually call the police for. Didn't respond to either of those calls, no crime committed, absolutely no reason whatsoever to go out. I will say that this is a good lesson to learn, and again, depending on where you work and what your policies and procedures are, there are some cops, especially if they're newer, they're automatically going to go on every call. They're going to completely ignore the fact that this is ludicrous and asinine that we are being dispatched on this. They're going to go and they're going to contact people and they're going to get names and dates of birth and they're going to ask blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying, in my humble opinion, and that's all any of this channel is my opinion. It's not something we should be going and doing on every call just because somebody called the police. Since we're on this vein and we're on this direction, let's just keep going. This was a call that came out. I took a picture of it because I wanted to talk about it. I didn't actually get dispatched on this, thank goodness. And I don't know what these guys ended up doing, but this was a call of somebody that lives or runs, I think they were just visiting, or one of the guests at an Airbnb. You guys remember a few weeks ago we talked about the Airbnb call I had where they found the hidden video camera. Disturbing. I don't remember how many episodes ago that was, but this was somebody staying at an Airbnb that overheard somebody else in one of the other units or rooms talking about drugs. Oh no, they were talking about drugs. I can't remember, were they talking about doing drugs? You can talk about drugs in your home or in your apartment or in your hotel room. Talk about drugs in public if you want. It's not like you're possessing them or doing something illegal. You're talking about them, all right? It's freedom of speech. Oh, I just can't. Let's get on to a real call and something that actually deserves the police being contacted. Oh, okay. So the one with the really weird circumstances, this came in as a like burglary in progress type call, and it was really weird. The facts were really skewed. So I went and talked to this woman. I contacted her. She lives in an apartment, and she's been having problems with her neighbors down below. She's really frustrated with the sounds and the noises of people moving around, and just is not having a good time with them. And she called to report that her house had been broken into. Her evidence of that, or the reason she believed that, was she left to go somewhere on some errands. She came back. and she has a hutch, a glass front, like piece of furniture, a hutch or something with dishes and things inside of it that she inherited from her mother, who is deceased. Her mother had passed away some time ago, and she had this in her apartment. She came home, and there is a message written on the glass of the hutch, like in some kind of a marker. There's a message. She's positive that that message wasn't there before. She came home and it was there, thus believing somebody broke into her apartment. Okay, all right, that could be reasonable. What does the message say? Maybe it gives us a clue as to who did it, right? So I get over there and I look at it. It's in cursive, so some of it's hard to read, but as I start reading it, it's addressed to a woman's name, and it says something along the lines of, "You were always there for me. Thank you so much for your love. You will always be remembered," and it's signed a name that's kind of indistinguishable or hard to make out. I couldn't really make out what the name was. It was written to this lady's mother. It was addressed to her, the woman who owned the hutch before she died, right? So I had to ask the woman, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You think your neighbor broke in? Because that's what she thought. The neighbor she was having trouble with downstairs is the one that broke in. I had to say, let me understand this correctly. Number one, this is your mother who this message is written to. Do your neighbors know your mother? No, they don't. Do they know her name? No, they don't. Is there any way they can know her name? No, there's not. So do you believe, and do you mean to tell me that you think that they broke into your apartment while you were gone and wrote a heartfelt message to your deceased mother? It's tough sometimes when you think you know what's going on and what's happening, but it's hard to just flat out tell somebody that. You don't want to dismiss their concerns and their suspicions because it doesn't make any sense to you. So obviously this was a personalized message. This was a family member that wrote this, and my guess is it had been there for some time. It was up in the corner of it, in the glass, on the hutch, and it's probably something that she just didn't notice, but I couldn't say that to her. She was absolutely positive it wasn't there. She left to go on her errands, came back, and it was there. Only other explanation that I could think of, paranormal. Paranormal activity. A spirit, a ghost.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Somebody else came in, wrote the message on there while she was out, getting her McDonald's or at the Walmart or whatever. Interesting circumstance, but I had to explain there's nothing that we can do about this. We can't collect evidence. There's no actual evidence of a crime. This isn't enough to show that your house was broken into. Nothing else was missing or disturbed. So I just talked to her and left. Kind of an interesting one. Then we had a report of a domestic. There was somebody down the street that heard a woman and a man fighting in a car. They looked out and saw these guys just going at it in the car, yelling at each other. So they sent us, and all of a sudden on the radio, we had a detective from an outside agency. So not even the police department in our city, but another department came on our radio and said they were in the area on that domestic call and asked how close we were. And we told them we were a couple minutes out still. We were on our way. Next thing we know, he comes on with a half-garbled transmission on the radio saying something about one of them is running from him in his car. And so we speed up just a little bit, trying to get there quicker, not knowing what's going on. He calls out that he's on a traffic stop. He got her stopped in the parking lot of this business. Still kind of hard to understand what's going on, but we get there. It's a detective from this other department, and he says that he saw them fighting, and he went over to see what was going on, and she hurried and left in the car. The other guy hopped out. She left, and he followed her and tried to stop her, and she took off running. I asked him if he had his lights on, lights or siren, and he's in an unmarked car. He says, no, I didn't turn that on, but she was running and driving fast away from me, so I finally pulled her over, and then she stopped. Okay, so I went and talked to her and asked her what was going on, and she said she noticed the car, thought that someone was following her, didn't know who it was, had no idea it was a cop, scared the crap out of her, so she was trying to hurry and drive away from the area. She didn't know who it was. Once she saw the lights, she pulled over, and no big deal. Turns out there wasn't even a crime. She was having a verbal argument with this other person, which is fine. It's not illegal to do that, and there was nothing physical, nothing broken, nothing damaged. No crime, no reason to even stop her. We hurried and got her out of there, and the detective went back to go work out at the gym, go to the restaurant to eat his lunch, go get I don't know what they do. And then we had the road rage call. So I was a backing officer on this one. This was a newer officer and his field training officer, I believe, if I remember right, that were assigned to this. But there was a guy that had been in a near collision with another woman on the road. I don't know exactly what had happened, but he pulled up next to her. which is definitely not what you want to do. And he rolled down the window and made some smart comment to her about choosing a lane to be in or getting off the road or something. So she responded by reaching down, coming up with a pistol, and she held it kind of like this down at the ground, and she just shook it like this, like, look what I got, put it back down, and drove off. So he called us and told us about this. This happens all the time. Actually, we get these kind of reports, and usually there's not enough information to really go after it, and we just tell them, look, next time don't do that. Glad you didn't get hurt, type thing. The funny thing about this one, though, is as we were sitting there talking to this guy, we were out on a grassy hill by the roadway. He lives in some apartments on this main road, and as we're chatting with him, she comes back and drives right by us. So he goes, holy crap, that's her right there. She's in that car. And it matched the description that he gave, and it matched the out-of-state license plate that he gave. So we run to our cars, tell him just wait there, we'll come back. We get in our cars, we fly after her. She had already turned and gone down the road, but we caught up to her. She wasn't running or driving fast or anything like that, so it took us a couple blocks. Got to a light. She was right in front of us, so the officer had a minute to let dispatch know we had the car, and we'd be doing a high hazard or felony stop. This is the type of stop most people have seen in movies or shows or on episodes of Cops or Live PD, but there's a known threat that we've been given information on. We know that there's probably a gun in the car, so we're not going to take any risks. We're going to do a high hazard stop. Light turned green. She went through the intersection. He lit her up, positioned himself behind her. I positioned myself kind of parallel next to him behind the car. We get out, we have our guns drawn, pointed towards the car, and we start giving them verbal commands on what to do. She followed those commands, she got out, came back, we were able to get her into custody. The gun was not in the car. Turns out she had gone home and dumped it at the house where she lives and had started driving back to wherever she was going. So that got investigated and handled. I don't remember what happened as far as charges. It seems like he chose to not want to be a victim or a witness, so we didn't even end up having a case. But those are always pretty tense. Adrenaline's always high. Never know what's going to happen on them, but we got that taken care of. Everyone was safe, and on to the next one. Oh yes, the parking ticket accusation. So this was a vehicle burglary call that I went on. Nothing out of the ordinary on this one. Someone went into the restaurant where they were eating, and their car was in the parking lot. They came back, the window was shattered, and their purse was missing. So I went up and helped them, took the report. Was in the restaurant with the manager in his office actually reviewing video from video surveillance outside in the parking lot when another employee came to the manager and said there's a patron that's demanding to speak with the cops about the parking ticket they just got. Okay, well, in the city that I work in, we have a parking authority department that handles all the parking issues. We don't do parking enforcement. We don't write parking tickets. I guess we could if we wanted to, but it's not something that we do. We have a different agency that has nothing to do with the police department that does that. And I guess they didn't feed the meter or whatever. They got a parking ticket and they saw a cop and they were positive that's why I was there, was giving people parking tickets. Anyway, the manager went down and took care of it. I didn't even have to go talk to him. He went and explained to him that it wasn't the police. They were here doing police work, and it wasn't the cops that gave him a ticket. Thank you very much. So those are the highlights for this week. Can't wait to see you until the next video. Thanks again for being here. Remember, if you'd like to see that bonus picture of me doing the karaoke, stick around to the after credit scenes. As we always put some kind of a clip, video, or bonus feature at the end of those to encourage you guys to stick around. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Hey! Let's go! Bet!